Here we go. It's me, the Prez, Lawrence Presman, and a happy Tuesday to all of you guys. I really hope you enjoyed our first ever golf show. It's up live at YouTube. Jared Smith, just an outstanding job hosting that show. Andy Lang, Nick Borman, and Dave Koken with us. Make sure to check that out. Just wanted to throw that out there right away. Today's show, NFL preview show, AFC East, Bills, Pats, Dolphins, and Jets. Just a beautiful division to talk about. My two favorite NFL guests, Ralph Michaels at Cal Sports LV, looking good, and a much younger Matt Joseph at Mid-Major Matt. It's amazing what a haircut could do, Matt?
First one I found out in 4 months, so I feel like I let 5 pounds of hair off my head, and it does feel really good.
Well, you look outstanding. Lucky to have you, Ralph. How have you been, man?
Enjoy Tuesdays because college football with Rob and Drew. That's always a good show and always gets my juices flowing. So follow up college football show with this awesome NFL show. Always look forward to Tuesdays.
Yeah, dude, you and Drew, Rob Vino, outstanding job this afternoon, 1 p.m. We taped that show. It's up at YouTube now, our college football preview show. Tell us what you talked about and who is hosting next Tuesday as your guest host.
Well, we've got Matt sitting in. Drew going back home, just visit some family for the weekend. He'll be in the air, so we're going to see. Let's see. Every time I talk Big Ten East, this guy in Detroit named Johnny chimes in and thinks like I'm ripping on Michigan just because they suck and can't beat Ohio State. But that's just the facts. I mean, it really is. Besides Clemson in the ACC, it's Ohio State. They just have the talent, and no one can catch them right now. Last year was the year Michigan should have caught Ohio State. They couldn't. It's Ohio State and everybody else. I have Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, number 2, Indiana, clear number 4, and Michigan State much closer to Maryland and Rutgers than they are to Indiana this year.
I found out recently that Luke Armstrong, Lance's son, plays on Rice. I watched that documentary. Fascinating stuff. Probably the most polarizing figure in sports history almost, in the sense that he's done so much good and so much bad, but ultimately the bad was to himself. So it's a real, excluding the bullying and whatnot, but really highly recommended. It's a 4-hour ESPN 30 for 30 documentary on Lance Armstrong. It was spectacular. Matt, did you watch it?
I did not. I did not want to see them try and sympathize him. You mentioned the bullying part. I thought
they didn't.
Okay, that's good. That's good because I didn't want 4 hours of he's not really that bad. I mean,
no. It was very evenly done. It was, but Matt, I mean, listen, it's a conversation for another day. But Lance Armstrong did not do anything that would warrant a lynching. I mean, he didn't murder anyone. He didn't steal from, his friend. Are
you saying there's Baltimore Ravens players that have done much worse and have been actually cheered for after the fact?
And even gotten into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Correct. Anyway, let's not get into that. Hey, Chris Lippens, nice to see you guys. Welcome to the NFL preview show. We've done the NFC entirely. We've got 3 more weeks after today to finish this show up. Today we're talking Bills, Pats, Dolphins, and Jets. And let me just set this up here. I think this is just an extremely fascinating division for the first time in about 20 years. Bills and Pats are equal in favor, equal at plus 125 to win the division. Jets and Dolphins are equal too at plus 750. Lines from Bet365. So many unanswered questions right now. You've got the Bills with a question at quarterback. I mean, I personally think this guy could be a big time player, but we don't know whether he's going to progress or regress. Loaded up at wide receiver. Did lose a great defensive end in Shaq Lawson. And then you got the Pats, just who knows? I mean, last year, what a ridiculously outstanding defense. They win without Brady whenever they've had to. Best coach in history. So many questions. And I think there are also so many questions with the Dolphins and the Jets. I mean, who's going to start at quarterback for the Dolphins? You know, we saw how strong they ended at the end of last year. This team did not quit on their coach. And I think the Jets, totally underrated defense, really let last year get away from them with an early injury to their quarterback. This is just pure juiciness. Ralph, an overall view on the AFC East, if you will, my friend?
You know, the Jets have really come up in my thought pattern.
Yeah.
And there's a couple things I just tweeted out right before the show. You guys might not have seen them. I went through and I pulled the record since October 31st. If you look at, and again, taking half the season and saying this is the AFC East, you can't do, but it is eye-opening. From October 31st on in the regular season, the Jets went 6-3, Miami Dolphins went 5-4, Bills went 5-4, and the Patriots went 4-4.
Yeah, exactly. Well said. And you know what? I mean, we'll talk about it a little later. The Jets defense on the field, like 65% of the time, give or take, just outstanding, completely underrated defense there. And they're in a division where defense is really going to rule the day. I think the Bills are going to play to the under. The Pats are going to play to the under. So I think defense is going to be very important. Mid-major Matt, you can find him at sportsmemo.com. Any overall thoughts about this division before we take it apart team by team?
Well, the Jets also, we talk about the Mosley injury. They had such high hopes for Mosley, and they played well in the 2 games he was in there, and then all of a sudden he leaves. That's the heartbeat of their defense at linebacker. I mean, look, I think this is going to be like some of the divisions we talk about. NFC. There are reasons to like each team, and there are reasons to not like each team. And I think coaching could be a huge factor if you believe in the Patriots, and talent could be a factor if you believe in the Bills.
Well said, my friend. PB Naj, welcome to the show, Serial Dog. Hey now, brother. Clearly a Howard Stern fan. And PB Naj, I don't even know how to respond to that question. Of course the Patriots are going to miss TB. The only question is how much. I mean, obviously, it's a franchise-changing loss. But, you know, if anyone can make the adjustment, it's Bill Belichick. Boys, let's start with Buffalo. I'm high on this team. I'll tell you that right off the bat. Their over and under is 8.5 minus 130. I'm getting my lines from Bet365. They are plus 125 to win the division. Let's do both at the same time, boys. I can get to 9 wins. For me, I can't make a bet if I'm only half a game over the line that is being given. I do lean on over for Buffalo. As far as winning the division goes, I think they're the best bet here. But I actually think it's better to wait. We need to see what this Pats team is going to look like. And obviously, Ralph, you've mentioned the Jets and Miami and their good end of the season. Matt, I'll go to you first. I lean on the over in Buffalo, and if I had to make a bet, I would bet them to win the division.
So I saw 9 using Ralph's handy dandy schedule guide, or 8.5. I came to 9. So to me, like you, I don't love it because I'm not far enough. There's not enough of a cushion for me. With regards to the division, I don't love that either. There's things I like about the Bills. Obviously, picking up Stephon Diggs, they really didn't have a ton of true playmakers on offense. You know, John Brown was a very good wide receiver. The running back group, I'd like to see how they use the kid from Utah, Zach Moss, because he's going to add something to Devin Singletary. I like their offensive line. I like their front 7. Josh Norman, I'm not that in love of him opposite the Tre'Davious White kid, but the Bills have some interesting scheduling spots, and as Ralph, I'm sure, will talk about in his scheduling guide, they've got a ton of games where it's 3-point by 3 or less, or they're underdog by 3 or less. So there's a lot of toss-up games. The flat spot I was looking at was probably that road game against the Jets, sandwiched between home games against the Chiefs and the Patriots, which we know, even if Brady's not there, people are still going to get up for the Patriots. They've got 4 home, 4 road to start things out. I actually think, quote unquote, the best bet involving this team is them not making the playoffs at plus 155, because if I don't think they're going to win the division, I'd rather get them to not make the playoffs, because I don't think they're good enough to make a wild card in that case.
Matt, I'll stop you there for a quick second. I love that bet if you don't think they're going to win the division. I mean, that makes so much sense. I cannot see 2 teams coming out of this division to get into the playoffs. I mean, in all seriousness, one could argue all 4 teams could go 8-8. But so that is a really astute bet. As for the lines, DraftKings, I think you've heard of them, right? You've heard of DraftKings, little small company?
Yeah.
Well, they are at 8.5 minus 130. Ralph, 80%, 89% of all bets they've taken to date, including the handle, is on the over 8.5 at minus 130. Did you have anything to add?
Yeah, 8.5 minus 130 is a good line, because in my guide I had 9 at even, and it's about 50 cents per half win.
Yeah.
I just saw some fresh numbers today, and they were 8.5 minus 155, which translates to 9 even. So that clearly is an over better. If you're looking to bet Buffalo over, then DraftKings is a place you want to go. Grab the 8.5. Only have to lay the 135. So the over bettors, DraftKings good.
Yeah.
Other bettors, there's different places you're going to look. I do like Buffalo. I look at what the Bills did, and yes, they lost Gore and they lost Lawson and Phillips on the D line.
Lawson's a big loss.
Yeah, he is, but you bring in Addison. I think that covers them. You're adding Norman without really losing a guy there, and I think you are absolutely in the right spot. Yes, they had to give up a number 1 in the package to get Diggs, but you're in the spot to do that. This is a team that for 17 years never made the playoffs, and NFL teams have to go to stages. I don't care if you win the playoff game, but you have to get to the playoffs first to have that experience, especially with a young quarterback. Now they're in a position to do that. You look at their defense last year, and by the way, in yards per play, which I think is the most important defensive statistic, New England was 1 in the NFL. Buffalo was 4 in the NFL, and the Jets were number 5 in the NFL. So that just shows you this type of defense. The other thing Buffalo's always had a problem with is that the Patriots ahead of them always went either 5-1 or 6-0 in division play. And I think that evens it up. Then look, the first half of the schedule, very winnable games to be able to get some. Their first 4 games of the season, the Jets, Miami, the Rams, and at Vegas, is the number 31st easiest schedule. They play the number 20 schedule overall, while New England plays the number 10 schedule. So very winnable games early. Josh Allen gets time to get his pieces in place before they play a much tougher schedule late. It's brutal. At San Fran, host Pittsburgh, at Denver, at New England, 4 of the last 5 games. But if I have this young team with this defense, it's exactly the way I want the schedule to play out. So, Buffalo is a favorite of 4.5 or more points in 2 games. Those are wins. They're a dog of over 4.5 in only 1 game, and that's at the San Francisco Chargers. And that comes a week after a bye. At San Francisco. That comes after a bye in a Chargers game, so that's not even a bit. They have a defensive team that doesn't make mistakes, doesn't turn the ball over. They're exactly the type of team for me. Last year, they were plus 4 turnovers, and I like them to win the division. They are clearly my favorite to win this division, but I agree. The division odds, you're getting a plus. Making the playoffs, you're getting a minus. There's only one way to bet the Bills, and that would be to win the division.
Yeah, and like Matt said, if they're not going to win the division, the next best bet there is for them not to make the playoffs. Matt, let's take their schedule apart a little bit deeper. Chris Lippens, one of our listeners in the chat room, said, tough stretch week 13 to 16. I don't look. They got the Niners, but then they got the Steelers at home. They head over to Denver. They head over to New England, and then they end with the Dolphins. I think they could sweep. I don't see that as really that tough. The interesting thing about Buffalo for me is this is a team that is going to play, from my perspective, to the under most of the year. So when they match up against teams like Denver, I think that's in their wheelhouse. When they play teams like the Patriots, who are going to be a slow-moving under team, that's in their wheelhouse. They're going to struggle against teams like the Niners and Kansas City, teams that can score where they just can't keep up with them. But I lean on over. I lean on Buffalo to win, and I don't think their schedule is as hard as others might. Where are you looking? Trap games, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, as I said, I think that Jets game between the Chiefs and the Patriots is a trap game. I mean, granted, look, they have 10 days to prepare for a road trip against the Jets, but it's a divisional game. Then they got the Patriots up afterwards. Look, I think when it comes down to this win total and this team, it's all about Josh Allen. If you believe in Josh Allen, you're going to take the over. And if you don't, which I like Josh Allen, I have some hesitations about him. This is a team, it's funny because I talked about it a little bit with some of the teams in the NFC. Their defense is really good. Don't get me wrong, but who's going to run the ball in December in a cold game and things like that? Who's going to salt a game away? Let's say Stephon Diggs, who has had a little bit of an injury history, let's say he gets hurt. Who's going to carry them there? There's some things I worry about, and I'm a little bit hesitant on for the Bills. So that's why I'm not jumping on them to win the division, because I like Josh Allen. I'm just not all the way there yet on their offense.
I look at Ralph.
I just had one question, because he's talking about a trap game. I have a real problem calling a division game a trap game, especially in this division. But that wasn't my question to you. Does Kansas City being a Thursday game prior to playing the Jets on a Saturday, having 10 days in between, does that make it less of a trap for you with the 10 days, be it a Kansas City, which would give you a short week versus having the longer period of time?
I mean, I would say, look, the 10 days, certainly, it was hard to find a very big trap game here. It was very hard to, because But I think the thing is, a home game against New England is going to be a home game against New England all the time for Buffalo. And so you come off of the Kansas City game, which I'm probably not going to pick the Bills to win. And so they're going to hear about it. Or even if they do win, hell, if they win that game, I think that's even more of a trap game against the Jets, because it's a game against a team on the road. And then you've got New England, the big, bad New England Patriots, the AFC East. I don't love the 10-day thing. I think it's the closest thing to a trap in my mind if you think Buffalo is going to win that game.
Yeah, man. Listen, I don't think a real trap game stands out here. And I think a lot of teams, to be honest with you, I think you want a division rival after you play Kansas City. I think you got to go into these KC games thinking, okay, let's prepare for the following week. It's going to be very hard to beat this team. Obviously, Buffalo has them at home. They're going to grow the grass nice and long. It's November. Who knows what the weather's going to be like? Pray for a lot of wind and a whole ton of rain. But yeah, dude, I'm with you. I don't see a glaring trap game for this team. If anything, I think you're right. It would be the Jets and the Patriots. But, this team, I mean, they could beat the Cardinals. They could beat Seattle at home. And I'm very high on Josh Allen. He actually reminds me a lot of John Elway. I think he's just a winner. I think he's a guy that just struggles emotionally to lose and is just going to will the best out of him and his team. And don't forget, this I think is only his third year in the league. I'm going back and reiterating over 8.5 for me and them to win the division. Ralph, any last thoughts on the Bills?
Yeah, I sort of chuckled when you called Josh Allen a winner because this is a kid who was a first-round draft pick with Wyoming and had a losing record and had a negative
That's
turnover
not what a winner
to
is.
international margin. But
That's
yeah,
not the
I
definition
understand.
of a winner to me, Ralph. He plays a team sport. The guy can't win on his own. A winner is a guy who pukes when he loses.
Yeah, well, again, I'm the Buffalo guy. I'm a Josh Allen fan, and the other thing we got to mention is this guy rushed for 602 yards.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson only rushed for 1,000 yards last year. I think he had 2,000 the year before, only 1,000. So no one mentions Josh Allen in the Lamar Jackson, but rushing for 602 yards and 5.1 yards per carry, and that's adding in 43 sacks. That makes a mobile quarterback, which is very, very dangerous for opposing defenses.
And not only that, Ralph, which is a great point and sort of an answer to Matt's question about who's going to slow that clock down. Baltimore really designed their offense around Lamar Jackson's running game. Buffalo didn't. A lot of his rushing yards came from broken plays. So, yeah, I think that's an excellent point, Ralph. Matt, any last thoughts on Buffalo?
There's gonna be a consistent theme here. I'm not picking them to win the division, but I'm not saying they're not going to. As I said, I think my best bet, quote unquote, for this team is not to make the playoffs at plus 155 for the value.
He's Matt Joseph. You can find him at Sports Memo. Ralph Michaels at wagertalk.com. Make sure to check out our Korean baseball show. It starts at 4 p.m. Eastern. Andrew McGinnis and Dave Koken. That show is outstanding. Ralph, talk to us about the promotion of the day at wagertalk.com, please.
Well, no promotion of the day. It's Tuesday, Prez, so let's just mention $2 Tuesdays, guys. Where else? Mondays, let's see, packages are $9. $2 Tuesdays, and we got a guy sitting on the couch over there with a haircut who happens to be a $2 capper at Sports Memo. So, Matt, tell back if they buy your $2 play today.
Well, there was a win total that certainly stuck out to me now, and I wanted to jump in on the value before any sort of potential moves. I know we're still a bunch of months away, but, you want to get ahead of any sort of line moves, especially when it comes to win totals. That half a win total could be very important. So if you go on over the $2, you'll find my favorite win total.
Literally the best win-loss total Matt Joseph has in the NFL, at least now. Things might change, but now $2. Get down on that play. You can find it at sportsmemo.com. Welcome to the show, Scott Brown, Justin Kramer. Love having you guys here. Scott says 8-8 for the Bills. Look, I think that is fair. Let's get into the Pats. Again, I've got 8.5 at minus 130 at DraftKings. Plus 130 to win the division. And, similar to Buffalo, New England, 91% handle, 80% bets on the over. So a shit ton of money coming in on the over. Ralph, before I talk about it, you go ahead, my friend.
Well, we're talking about a historic defense last year. We're not talking about a good defense.
Yeah.
14.1 points per game. I think I looked in the last decade. There's only been one team that good in the NFL. So, what Brady's responsibilities changed last year. He didn't have to win games. He just didn't have to lose games. And when you look at teams they lost to mid-season, they lost to Baltimore, they lost to Houston, they lost to Kansas City. 3 very good offensive teams. Well, that fits into New England's mold last year. Let's stop those teams that we can stop. And if we can't outscore those good offensive teams, then we're not going to beat them. Now we're going to take a step back. Tom Brady did not make mistakes. 24-9 ratio. The year before, 30-11. So we're talking 54 touchdowns, 20 interceptions. That's the problem. New England was plus 21 turnovers. That's a number that most NFL teams won't reach in a decade. In fact, plus 21 has only happened a few times in the NFL the last 10 years. That's going to have them falling back. The defense, although the changes aren't huge, I mean, you look at New England and you lose Collins and you lose Shelton, and you bring in what, Phillips and Allen, maybe those two guys, but you're just not going to have that same defense with an offense that can't move the chain, can't win the time of possessions. That's the difference with Jarrett Stidham now. Right now, I am calling New England an 8-8 team, and they will not make the playoffs. I will also say this. My mind can be completely changed if they sign Cam Newton. That if Cam Newton comes in healthy and Cam Newton can run the ball and move the chains, that makes their defense that much better. That keeps the offense off the field, and they win a lot of close games because of having that running quarterback. I am not a fan of Stidham. Yeah, Belichick, is he a quarterback guru? We don't know. They trade away Garoppolo. What does he do in San Fran? A decent year and then a very good year when he gets hurt. So, this faith they put in Jarrett Stidham, I'm just not buying it. And I will be happy to bet against Jarrett Stidham now. But if they make a trade or if they get Cam Newton, you still have Bill Belichick. You still have a defense that's going to be very good. So right now, with Jarrett Stidham as the quarterback, I am betting New England no. They are not going to be plus 21 turnovers, and I would bet them under the 9 wins not to make the playoffs.
Yeah, so, I look at this thing, and Ralph, while I and Matt are talking, find out what's the win-loss for Bill Belichick in the last 20 years without Tom Brady. I think it's extremely high. If you've got those numbers.
They won the division, They won the division
with Matt
15
Castle.
of 16 years, and the 1 year they didn't was 2008, right, when Brady got hurt.
No, but their record was like amazing. There were other, I'm not talking about whether they won or lost. I'm talking about, how many wins versus how many losses. Listen, Matt, I look at this thing and I say they did not lose a lot on defense. They're bringing back a very similar defense to what they had last year. And as Ralph said, it was a historic defense. One also has to take into account Tom Brady did not play for the Patriots for the last 10 weeks of last year. I know number 12 played, and I know he looked a lot like Tom Brady, but I can't believe that somebody like, and I know Ralph talks about Cam Newton. I look at somebody like Alex Smith and I say, surely Alex Smith or Cam Newton can put up better numbers than Tom Brady did at the end of the year last year, and yet they consistently won. They had nobody on wide receiver last year, and they really did not exactly go out there and pick up a whole bunch of wide receivers this year, Lee being the only one. It almost really begs the question, how the hell did they win so many games last year? Tom Brady was a nightmare of a quarterback last year. Ralph can attest to the fact that I said that week in and week out last year. Incessantly. So I don't think they've lost a whole ton. Obviously, they've lost the greatest quarterback of all time from 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. But the difference between last year and this year is not nearly as stark as everybody seems to think. They're really bringing back a very similar team. And in all seriousness, they might have a quarterback that's actually better than Tom Brady was for the second half of last season. Where are you going with this, my friend?
So, I'm going to give you pretty much the same thing I said about the Bills. I think the Patriots are an 8-8 team. So once again, it depends on, the numbers, 9, 8.5 for the win totals. Once again, I think the best bet here is, and I'm not a hedging guy, and I would have to do some math and figure things out. But I think no, once again, for the Patriots at plus 155 or whatever plus price to make the playoffs.
Well, if you do both those bets, Matt, you're pretty much guaranteed. There's no way the Bills and Pats are making the playoffs.
Right, and I just look. The Patriots have the strengths where they need to be a team like this. Offensive line is going to be very good as long as they don't have injuries because they don't have depth there, and their secondary is really good. And if you look for the losses, their defensive guys are either in Miami or in Detroit this year. That's where anybody who loses or leaves New England, that's the two places they go.
I mean, listen, Roger Long just wrote, Van Noy will be a huge loss for the Pats. By the way, Roger, welcome to the show. Thanks for commenting. Yes and no. I mean, Richard Seymour, was he a huge loss? Was Chandler Jones a huge loss? Was Bruschi a huge loss? I mean, this team, one thing Belichick knows is when a player is ready to go and another one can step in. I don't know. I think their defense is going to be not historic, but very good. Sorry, Matt. Continue.
And by the way, that the stretch they have, usually we talk about New England, they've got these very friendly home stretches. If you start November 1st, they've got 6 road trips over an 8-week span.
Yeah.
And they spend 2 weeks in LA. And I know that Ralph might pick on me for this, but I don't know, a trap game or a flat spot's that Miami game. After spending 2 weeks in LA against the Chargers and the Rams, then they fly to Miami where they already had issues with Tom Brady. And you've got a Dolphins team that I think will be a live team or a more live team than they've been in the past. I don't know what the trends say or anything like that, but 2 weeks on the West Coast, presuming they stay, which is, I know it's over a 4-day span, the 6th to the 10th, flying back to Miami, and it's just all this road weariness that the Patriots could have. I think that Miami game on the 20th could be an interesting game to watch.
Yeah, and don't forget, I mean, even in the Patriots, absolute heyday moments, they'd go to Miami and lose. So I think that's an astute call, and I think they're going to I think they're going to go 1-1, to be honest with you, against every team in that division. There's a lot to be said about, when and going back to Lance Armstrong, for instance, imagine the party that all the other riders had when he retired. Oh, my God, somebody could win now. It's got to be the same with this AFC East. I mean, you're talking about 20 years of just knowing your best chances second. Now I think there are 3 teams that just want to take revenge out. So, yeah, I love that call as far as a trap game goes. But, I sound like I'm a fan of the Patriots this year. I just don't know, Ralph. I can't. I got to see them, man. I got to at least see their first few games before I can make an assessment. I mean, we talk about, Parcells as an incredible coach. He didn't do anything with bad teams. He didn't even do anything with medium teams. So, Belichick is not some god. I mean, there are many incredible coaches that have not won every single year, including Bill Belichick.
Prez, it could be very misleading when you're watching the Patriots this year. And if they get off to a good start, there's going to be people jumping on the bandwagon. During the first 8 weeks, they play the number 20. Last 8 games, they play the number 4 schedule. So they have the 4th toughest finish. We talked about those 3 straight road games. And also, you're also paying the inflated price of Bill Belichick. You had talked about season win totals. The last 4 years, the Patriots season win totals have been 10.5, 10.5, 12.5, 11, and 11. What have they gone? They've gone over 4 times, and they pushed in 2018 with an 11-5 record. The Chiefs are the only team in the NFL to go over each of the last 5 years. But the Patriots, and it even goes back a year or 2 before that, again, they haven't lost a win total in the last 5 or 6 years. They pushed one of them, and that has a lot of people always betting the Patriots over. So you are paying that inflated premium, no question, on the Patriots this year.
Yeah, and look, I mean, 17 straight seasons at 10 or more wins. So it will be a fun year to watch. And, before we just leave the Patriots, Matt, who's going to win more games, Tampa Bay or New England? And surely there's a prop bet out there on that.
I'm guessing the Buccaneers are going to be favored a bit more. The Buccaneers have the tougher division than the Patriots do, and we'll get into the rest of the division. Can I cheat and say it's a push potentially? I mean, I'm not as high on the Buccaneers as everybody else. I think I have to go back and look at my numbers, but I think it's like a 9-8 thing. Like, it's just one win apart because I think the Patriots benefit a little bit from this division, whereas the Bucs have to see everybody else. The Falcons, the Saints. I think the Panthers might get them one. So that division's going to hurt the Buccaneers in that prop bet.
Great
Prez,
point.
the line, they had a 40-cent line when they put it out. They opened up the Patriots minus 130, Tampa Bay plus $1.10. So that is with a 40-cent line. So they have the Patriots a slight favorite as far as the betting public goes.
Welcome to the show, Gun Rights Mafia and Nicholas Hallis. Welcome to the show. We love having you guys with us. Keep commenting. I'm reading them all. PB Naj writes, do QB records follow them to new teams or do they stay with the coach? I mean, there's no direct answer to that. I would say it's a bit of both. I mean, you can't, negate Tom Brady's record. I mean, he carries it with him wherever he goes. But ultimately, I think the question there is, were the Patriots, as going back 20 years, Ralph, was the MVP Belichick or was the MVP Brady?
Well, again, anytime you talk those two, they're combined. I mean, in the Hall of Fame era, Brady and Belichick have 100 more wins than any other coaching quarterback combo. So it's the perfect storm, so who knows who's going to get credit? I know that, if you want to talk preseason, there's no question it's the head coach because of that. But, I will give a shout out to Mark Lawrence and, his playbook just went to the
awesome.
Prez. I know you and I saw it. Mark Lawrence has in his playbook, if you look at the first few pages, he has the coaching records and the quarterback records. So if you want to take the time, go and take a look to see which coaches did well without what quarterbacks or what quarterbacks did well despite a coaching change, and you'll be able to get the answer. But I don't have a generic answer for you, but he has every record for us in the 2020 Playbook magazine.
Well, wait.
One sec, Matt. Ralph, it's so great to be working with Mark Lawrence again. You guys can find Mark Lawrence at sportsmemo.com. I have something to say after that, but Matt, you wanted to jump in?
Well, we might as well bring it up now. I know we wanted to touch on it at the end. I think it's fascinating, looking at DraftKings Sportsbook, that Belichick is not only the favorite to win Coach of the Year, but he's 10-1, and I believe the next guy's not until 14. They won it for 3 years. And so I'm guessing that, A, they're playing off the public angle because the Patriots and Belichick, everybody knows about it. But B, I just think that's interesting. I don't know if I would have made him the favorite because of what the Patriots have to go through. But if they win the division, I mean, does that move him up? Are you tying a Patriots division bet potentially to a Belichick winning Coach of the Year bet?
Yeah.
I think there's no value there at all because you're not – for the Patriots to win their division, they're not a big favorite like Belichick is. I absolutely would look at that list and start pulling some number 2 and 3 guys. There's going to be voters that just don't vote for Belichick because he's Belichick. Hey, don't laugh. If Dallas makes the playoffs, he probably deserves
No, I'm not. That wasn't even a joke. And I think he stinks as a coach. But everything is set up for Mike McCarthy to win Coach of the Year. It's all there for him.
He's 14-1. He's tied with Bruce Arians for second.
Yeah, I mean, to me,
that's a big odds.
Yeah,
that's a good bet. Yeah,
I think that's an absolute no-brainer from my perspective. I want to give my take on coach versus quarterback. And there's some other stuff I wanted to talk about. We do have a hard stop at 4. So in regards to coach and quarterback, and you had someone, PB Naj, we're talking about him a lot. I never understand the strange coach love in the NFL. Ralph, you mentioned Brady and Belichick, sort of, the back ends of the same coin, if you will. I don't buy it, dude. I think the MVP for the New England Patriots over the last 20 years by a large margin is Bill Belichick. And I'll tell you why. Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. John Elway took 15 years before he finally got his last 2? How many did Brett Favre win? Peyton Manning won 1.5. I only give him the half for Denver because he just happened to be standing on the field.
Yeah, wasn't Brock Osweiler the quarterback for 5 weeks before he came back?
How many did Joe Theismann win? Warren Moon never won a damn thing. You can list quarterback after quarterback. How many did Staubach win? How many did Troy Aikman win? 2. You can go on and
So
on.
you're
and
not giving
three.
Eli Manning credit?
What?
Eli Manning?
Yeah, well, exactly. You're talking about a coach who got rid of Richard Seymour in his prime, Chandler Jones in his prime, Teddy Bruschi in his prime. You got a coach who changed wide receivers yearly. You had a coach who had never had running backs at any time in his entire coaching tenure. You had a coach who was losing offensive and defensive coordinators like we drink water. And every year, no matter who was on that team, their defense was incredible and their offense was good enough. And I consider that Bill Belichick's genius and not Tom Brady's. With that said, I don't think Bill Belichick has those numbers without Tom Brady. But Tom Brady does nothing for the defensive side of the ball. So I am a Belichick guy, flat out. Yeah. Okay. Let's get to the Jets, boy. Boy, what the hell is wrong with me today? Boys, plus 750 to win the division, 6.5 plus 100 at DraftKings for the over and under. Matt, I'll go to you first on this one. Look, I can get to 7 with the Jets. I think the Jets are a better team than a lot of people thought last year, and Ralph pointed out their record towards the end of the season. And I also think they have an incredible defense. They really didn't add much. I mean, they lost Robbie Anderson and added Denzel Mims. So this is a team that I think is still going to struggle a little bit on offense. It'll be interesting to see what Bell does this season. Defense, though, is pretty much the same as it was. I can get to 8 wins for the Jets, 7 wins for the Jets. Therefore, I have no bet there. And at plus 750 to win the division, why not? Matt?
Well, I would love to go over here because I think there are some pieces here. I think there's a chance they go 0-8 on the road. I mean, they got no breaks. You know, obviously playing at Buffalo, at Miami, at New England, you think the Dolphins game, is going to be the closest spread. But then you look at the Colts, at the Chargers, at the Chiefs, at the Seahawks, at the Rams. And while I'm not high on the Rams, I'm not ready to pick the Jets.
Well, what are you, high on the Chargers?
Well,
you high on
actually,
the Colts? I mean, none of those teams sound... Other than Kansas City, none of those teams sound too daunting for me.
I'm very high on the Chargers, and when we get to the West, you'll see how high I'm high on the Chargers.
You'd roll it and smoke it high, that kind of high?
No, I wouldn't admit that, at least on camera. But I'm really high on the Chargers. I think they're going to be better than people think. But I can't pick the Jets in any of those road games. And if you're going to go 0-8, then you're going to ask me. I don't think this is a team that's going 7-1 at home. For the fantasy people, I think Chris Herndon's going to have a huge year this year. I know no books are going to put out any Chris Herndon props or anything, but I think this is the year we see the tight end get a boatload of touchdowns, and I think he's going to be busy in this offense. I like the Jets. I wish they got some breaks in their schedule, but I can't pick the over here because I don't think they're going to win a road game.
Yeah, I think they will win a road game, maybe even 2 or 3. I'm not as high on those teams as you are, but hey, we got to talk Indy and the Chargers in the next upcoming weeks. Ralph, I lean on the over. I'm not going near the New York Jets this year in any direction. Talk to me.
Well, I think I have the Jets circled as a bet on team, but they also play my number 6 toughest schedule, and their first 8 games of the season are the second toughest schedule in all of football. So your road games, I have them 6.5 point dog, 6 point dog, 4.5, 11, 7.5, 6 and 6. So you're a dog of 6 or more in 6 of your 8 road games. And yeah, you may win one of those, Prez. I'm not saying, but you're a 4.5 point dog to the Chargers, and I have them as a 0.5 point dog to an improved Miami team. And what's the unfortunate thing about Miami? I'm not going to be 60 and say it's a flat spot, but you play Buffalo, at Kansas City, home against New England, and at Miami. So as me, but just because they're playing tough teams on the road and they may not win, I look at them as a very bettable team. Let's remember this. We look at stats year to date. You cannot look at year-to-date stats when you talk about the New York Jets. They were 7-6 under Sam Darnold. Those 3 games Sam Darnold missed, they were sacked 19 times. That's unheard of. Cleveland sacked him 4, New England sacked him 5, and then Philadelphia sacked him 10 times. So you're taking a team that was 7-6, has a top 5 defense, now has a healthy Sam Darnold, who I completely buy, Le'Veon Bell, who they finally can use in the right way, because what happened? You lost that first game to Buffalo against the top 5 defense. Then you're without Sam Darnold for 3 more games. And then you played another tough Dallas and New England defense before you can even get your offense going. So, again, they're a team that I am not betting over the total because of their schedule. I have them under. They were +4 close wins, so they learned how to win those close games last year. But they're a team to me that I think very well can be 5-11 or 6-10, but be one of those 11-5 ATS teams that we all know as handicappers. We live and die for them in college and the NFL. In my mind right now, that's the formula I think the Jets will follow this year.
He's Ralph Michaels. You can find him at wagertalk.com. Mid-major Matt Joseph. You can find him at sportsmemo.com. Don't forget, 4 p.m. Eastern, 13 minutes from now, the KBO show with Dave Koken and Andrew McGinnis. And, well, basically what I'm hearing from all of us is just stay away from the Jets. There's no bets here, right, Matt?
No, and by the way, to add to Ralph, he talks about how tough that first stretch of the games are. Adam Gase is already in the hot seat as it is. If they start losing and they're, 2-6, 3-5, whatever, the seat gets hotter, the grumbling starts happening in the media, and things start happening. And who knows if this young team can handle all of that. So they need to get off to a fast start, or else that seat gets immaculately hot for Adam Gase.
Yeah, so much to talk about. Believer72 thinks I look like Kurt Warner. I don't, but I will take that every day of the week. The dude's a stud. He also says Brady has more weapons than Rivers. We're not talking about the Colts right now, but I think you're out of your mind. I totally disagree with. And we'll talk about that when we get to the Indianapolis Colts.
You think the Colts have more weapons than the Buccaneers?
Oh, Brady, yes. No, I was thinking New England.
All right.
Sorry. But I will say this. They have a way better O-line. Man, Indianapolis' O-line is good. Let's get to Miami, boys. Same as the Jets, over and under 6.5, plus 120. So you get extra 20 cents to bet the over for Miami, plus 750 to win the division. We're obviously a betting show, and we like to give out, who to bet. And, Matt, I think, really gave the 2 best bets on the show, Bills and Patriots, plus 155 to not make the playoffs. I think you're going to win one of those. So, kudos to you, Matt. Those are the 2 best plays to date. As for Miami, 84% handle.
Prez, I'm going to throw one more thing in there. This is a gambling show, right?
Yep.
If you get the Bills plus 150, and you get the Patriots plus 150, right? Do you want to put a half a unit on the Jets just so if the Jets win the division, you're going to pick up 4 units, and if the Jets don't win, you're breaking even?
No.
Okay. No. All right. Just checking.
I do not. 91% of the bets are on the over for Miami. Look, this is not abnormal. Most bettors bet the over. I think offhand, and Ralph, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 52 to 48% on all games the over.
The thing to remember is if you add up all the win totals, Vegas already slants it towards the over because they know people are betting over, especially now. Yeah. You're getting fans who bet these overs that come to Vegas now that Vegas is open again. And if you're from Buffalo or the Jets, you're only betting over. You're a fan. You're not betting the under. Those astute under bets come later in the year when the bigger money's involved. But if you add up all of those win totals for each team, Vegas already slants it to the over by 3 or 4 games for the whole. They're breaking up an extra half win on 6 teams in each conference. So under is clearly the way to go if you're looking at betting value on any of these win total props for the long period of time. Not saying there's not value to some of the overs, but inherently there's a 20% built-in value to the under when betting team over-unders.
Matt, I'm going to talk to you first about Miami here, and the interesting thing here really is 2 words: Bengals, Jags. Those are the 2 teams that are missing on the Jets schedule. That could be the difference to me. I like over the total of 6.5. I actually think over the total of 6.5 for Miami is the best bet of these 4 overs. I know, Ralph.
Consider it booked, Prez.
We're going to do a side wager, me and you?
Oh, my God. Yes, I am.
Okay, well, let's go. Over 6.5, but it's plus 120. So can we go with 6? Let's go with 6 and have it as a push.
No, there's a 50-cent difference in half. If you want to give 6, then you're laying 130.
Yeah, but we're not going to do money, Ralph. We're going to do something better. Okay, let's go with money, Ralph. I want 6 minus 130.
Done.
$1,000.
Done.
Okay, there we go. 6 minus 130. $1,000. That's Matt. Go. Just go.
Well, I mean, I actually came up with 6 wins. I'm staying out of this. I like the Dolphins. I like the Dolphins actually more than the Jets, and for
so do I.
Reasons. First off, they probably have the best duo at corner in the league. The Howard kid has been the island by himself, and now they bring Byron Jones over. Of course, the concern is now that he's got his money, is he going to slack off a bit when it comes to his play? If he doesn't, you've got the best duo probably in the league. Hopefully, I'm not forgetting anybody. Mention that Kyle Van Noy, the defense has that New England presence. These guys really like their head coach. Like Flores really got to this team. They performed a whole lot better considering last year. If we had done this show, we'd be talking about 1 or 2 wins. I like Jordan Howard and Matt Breida at running back. The big question here for this total is, when is Tua playing? Because I think he's going to play this year. I don't know if Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to be under center. And if Tua's in there, are they tanking for next year? Are they trying to get him time? So I like Miami. I think there's some talent. Miami also always has that whole, depending upon where the Dolphins are on your schedule, it's a trap spot potentially. Miami, Sun, Beach, stands that aren't very full. So there are trap game potentials for other teams coming to Miami. So I think the Dolphins can win maybe a road game potentially and get a couple more at home. I like the Dolphins more than the Jets, but I'm not ready to take anything for that total.
Yeah, dude, look, I don't think I wouldn't take plus 750 for the Dolphins to win the division. Drew seems to like them in the East. Drew, I don't know if you heard, but Ralph and I now have a $1,000 bet in play.
Hey, I want to know how we went from 6.5 to 6 in that conversation.
Well, I took the 50 cents. I'm now at minus 130.
I want to split it.
You know what, Ralph?
Half of it, 6 minus 130, half 6.5 plus 120.
All you are problems. You're just one big walking problem.
6.5 when I said book it, and I was giving
Ralph, whatever you want, dude.
Split it.
Done.
We're splitting.
Half and half.
Good deal. All right. Here's what I have. My strength on saying. You put it this way. If Tua's banged up, not healthy for the season, I think my over-under is in jeopardy. I think if Ryan Fitzpatrick is there, they're a better team than Tua taking over part of the year. So I am trusting Tua's healthy, and if he's there, you've got that transition. And that's not an easy transition. Baker Mayfield did it after a couple games, came in, team got excited, they won some games, and boom, you see the excitement. But, I think anytime you have a quarterback coming in, it's going to be a problem. You look at the Dolphins lineup. I have them as a favorite against the Jets and against the Bengals at home. I have them a half-point favorite and I have them a 2.5-point favorite against Cincinnati. That's it. So I have them in a dog in 14 games. I actually have a pick 'em at Jacksonville on the road. But again, that Jacksonville game's after Buffalo and New England, so that's a very difficult spot for. And, Matt, they very well may have the best set of cornerbacks or a top 2 or 3 set of quarterbacks. But my numbers tell me this. They were number 30 in yards per play. They were number 30 in yards per game. They were number 32 in points per game. That's with those cornerbacks. Now imagine if one of those cornerbacks get healthy. And while I joked, they played well down the stretch, you look at the schedule they had and it was Miami. My numbers just tell me this. They were number 32 in the NFL in yards per day diff, minus 1.2. It's a long way to go from being minus 1.2 in every play you run to being to that point where you can win 6 games. The division's going to be tougher. They're going to have to win a couple division games to get to 6. And yeah, they may beat the Jets, but I just don't see it I think they go 1-5 in the division, and then, maybe win a road game and maybe knock off, I don't know, come to Las Vegas and beat them on December 27th, or, perhaps what's your next easiest home game? The LA Chargers and the LA Rams. They play them back-to-back the 25th and November the 1st. But I think they're better off if they let Tua just learn behind, like Mahomes did at Kansas City, like a lot of good quarterbacks do. I think it's a negative for the team bringing them in during the season, and that's what I'm hoping happens.
Yeah, Believer72 writes, Ralph, in today's NFL, a rookie QB has it easier than 20 years ago. Less hits, passer friendly. No chance, Believer. 20 years ago, it was a running league. Hand the ball to your running back. Now they're playing an incredibly complicated passing offense with stretch plays, motion, wheel routes, just things that weren't even around 20 years ago. No chance. That's my opinion. But I love your commenting in here, Ralph.
One more point, and I neglected to bring it up. And I think it's a huge point, and part of the reason I am so steadfast that it's going to be a problem with the turnover, it's a big deal having a left-handed quarterback. It's a big deal on the O-line.
Yeah.
It's a big deal for the wide receivers. And if mid-season they're going to go to a left-handed quarterback,
they got to swap their left tackle for a right tackle.
No question. I think it's a huge learning process, and I don't think they're a good enough team to do it.
Well, listen, I hope Conor McGregor starts every game. So I'm a big fan of McGregor at quarterback. Love the guy. I think he's outstanding. Okay,
Prez.
boys. What, Matt?
Real quick, I'll take the over on that 1 win for the Dolphins this year in division. I think they get at least 2 wins in the division this year.
I agree. Ralph, I want that bet too, dude. I agree. There's no chance they go 1-5 with McGregor at quarterback. Come on,
McGregor. Well, why do you say McGregor 3 times?
Google him.
Or Fitzpatrick.
No, they're the same person. Google them.
Okay.
They look identical.
Matt, I'll have to look next week if that's a bettable bet. Me talking and saying things on a video with 1 win.
Just quote unquote retired from the UFC. So now we can.
When people hear you say 4 things in a row, they just think you're on drugs.
I used to be. Guys, that's the show. Everybody, I can't thank you all enough for being in here. My favorite comment of the day, I just want to single that out, goes to Jets Go 10. His name is Jets Go 10, and he logged on towards the end of the show and just wrote Jets. That's beautiful.
Jets.
Jets. Jets. Okay, boys. Next week, what are we doing, Matt?
The AFC North. I said it right this time.
Okay, brother. Looking forward to it, Ralph. I can't thank you enough for being with us. Same with you, Matt Joseph. And guys, make sure to check out the KBA show. It starts right now.